Is it the end of your favorite TV weather guy or gal? Or gal, I don't want to get canceled over this video. Well, there might be some reprieve for now. It turns out that Allen Media, which was going to get rid of a bunch of local TV meteorologists, otherwise known as the weatherman or the weather lady, uh, because they wanted to save money. That was the report. And the public, viewers revolted, and now these folks are going to keep their job. But let's watch the beginning of this real fast. Mike Rausch is here. He ran a bunch of TV stations around the country for many, many years. He's going to tell us what's going on here. Let's watch the beginning of this Inside Edition video. And Mike, let me know if you can hear it.
Weather forecasters around the USA aren't just warning about cold fronts today. 100 of them are saying goodbye after getting fired.
Many of you may already know, but tonight is our last broadcast here at News 10.
Patrice Dayton and Kevin Orpert from Terre Haute, Indiana, are among the dozens of meteorologists saying farewell to viewers after getting the axe.
We had both hoped to go out on our own terms to celebrate, but that's not the case.
The TV stations affected are owned by billionaire Byron Allen, who also owns the Weather Channel.
All right, here we go. So, hey, we made it this far.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
For the final time, good night and sleep well.
Meteorologist.
That's going to be you and me, Mike, when we get canceled from YouTube. Made it this far. We were hoping to go out on our own terms, but we can't. All right. So, yeah. Mike, let's back up a minute. This has been reversed for now. And I know there are questions about whether they'll try to do it again at some point in time. But let's start at the problem here, the publicized problem. The issue that the media group was saying they were trying to address is money, that they were going to save money by moving weather to their Weather Channel in Atlanta. And the Weather Channel Atlanta is going to, or was going to, broadcast all weather for these local TV stations. Now, hey, some people might say that's brilliant. You know, why do you need all of these local people if you could have this behemoth, the Weather Channel? Just have them broadcast. So let's start it. Do you believe their reasoning? Is that true? You really think that they were just trying to cut money? It's no harm, no foul against these local meteorologists. It's just, look, it's business, baby. And also, like, why not? You know, why not do it that way?
Well, it is all about money. And it always has been. If you look at Allen Media, it's a relatively small station group of about 27 stations. The big corporations that own TV stations, you know, own well over 100 each. So Allen Media's debt service right now is about $850 million, so just short of $1 billion. So what happens in situations like that, your corporate guys are going to sit around and say, where can we cut? Where can we cut? Where can we cut? And so someone will say, hey, we have the Weather Channel. So why don't we have the Weather Channel do all the weathercasts, and then we can cut all these weathercasters that we have across our group. So that's how that came up. And it kind of blew back in their faces, so to speak. There was an awful lot of media coverage of it, like national coverage of them doing this, because it's kind of an unheard of step, even though cuts have been going on for years, as you know. And then, so they had to backtrack a little bit, but I don't know that they're backtracking all the way. I understand that maybe 4 or 5 of their stations will get to keep all of their weathercasters, but the rest may or may not. Allen Media has been very silent on what their plans are and haven't responded to any of the criticism publicly at all. So there still may be a number of meteorologists who are still not going to be employed going forward. So I don't know where that goes, but it certainly has been a story that hit the industry in a big way. It's like, what? Not the weather guy.
Right. Well, actually, I'm very surprised that it was the meteorologist that I would have figured that, like, the very expensive anchors that come in for the 11 o'clock news, though I have to say there was a lot of slashing of that many years ago. A lot of the high paid contract anchors were axed, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, back when I was in TV news. I remember that happening. And then people like me, we grew up in the TV news business at the time where reporters were shooting their own video. So I learned to do that from the very beginning. I rarely worked with a photographer unless I was working on special projects. So it was like everybody doing every job. But I was very surprised, actually, because I thought, like, the weather folks are the ones that have the real connection with the viewers. They can go
Yeah.
off script a lot. They show their personality much more often, and people love to watch the weather. So, what level of surprise did you have with this news?
Well, your weathercasters are your personality players in most markets, where you have somebody who's really good. They tend to stay around for a longer period of time. People become attached to them. They will oftentimes watch a newscast based on the weathercaster that they like the most. That may be built on trust, or maybe built on personality, or it could be built on both or something else. So they become the person that people like, or hey, they see them at the supermarket. They're the one they want to talk to and say, hey, I watch your weather every night. You're just so fantastic. So from a corporate standpoint, you have corporate people who oftentimes never worked at a station, never ran a station, never worked in a newsroom. They're just looking at the dollars and cents and, can we make the debt payment we have to make this month? So they're going to be a little colder about it and go, hey, that's a great idea. Let's cut those guys. I did a little list here. You joined into the TV news world in the 90s, late 90s?
No, my first job was 2008.
Okay, 2008. I was off by 10 years. Well, I saw it all. I saw it all,
in
but I'm not
98, I was
seeing
still
what's
in high
going on now.
school. But I was very
Yeah.
precocious for a high schooler, but I was not in TV news yet. However, I was shooting lots of videos at the barn with all of my friends with my horses and stuff.
Okay, well, that's a
Yeah.
start. You got to start
Yeah.
somewhere. Anyway, so I put a list here together of what I saw, right, over the years. So the biggest thing you saw in the TV industry, and I hope this isn't too much inside baseball, is that most of your stations in past years were owned locally by local owners who cared about the community and were connected to it. And then over the years, big corporations started to buy up the stations, just like almost any industry out there, right? And so the local connections started to get lost, and there were still some good broadcasters out there. I worked for one of the best years ago called the Providence Journal Company. And then, of course, they were purchased by Velo, which was then purchased by Tegna, and you know how that all goes. So anyway, just look at what I saw. It started with cutting studio camera operators when we were first able to automate that, right? And I did that. Then they cut master control operators and started to hub all the stations from a central location. So those guys are gone. Then they cut associate producers if they had them. Then what you saw when you entered the world here was photographers. They were already cut, and you went to what we jokingly called back in the day one-man bands, now call them MMJs. And now stations are cutting directors and using AI to replace directors in the control room. So slowly but surely, the number of people in newsrooms has been whittled down to pretty much the minimum needed. And so the biggest issue you have now is when you go after the weathercasters, they're the face of it. All these other jobs that were eliminated, nobody knew they ever existed to begin with. And it's, the core thing too is you still have to have reporters. Somebody still has to go out there and cover the news, with their own hands and feet. So AI, I don't think will be able to eliminate them, but AI is going to also take a bite.
The other interesting thing too, I think, is that some of these markets seem like small markets. We can show a map in a second. Small market meaning like a starter market where you have high turnover rate for a lot of positions anyway. And so maybe, people wouldn't have noticed if there was somebody that got the boot because I remember hearing that when I was in my first market or two, like, you guys always leave, you never stick around. It's because we're all hustling to get to the bigger market like Seattle, where I ended up finishing up my career. Before we go any farther, AllisonWinePromo.com. Okay. If you're mourning the loss or celebrating now that your favorite meteorologist is no longer going to be axed from your broadcast and you're going to get to see them every night again, you're not going to have to watch some strange person in Atlanta, then celebrate with Allison Wine Promo. Go join the wine club. You will get 6 bottles of wine, local, limited edition, very small batch wines. These, you know what? We're not going to outsource them to Atlanta. There's no Atlanta winemaking club that this is ever going to end up in. These will always come from these small vineyards, some over 200 years old, some between 6,000 and 9,000 feet. They were all hand selected for the kind of food and drink stuff I like, which is no additives, like chemical additives that commercial wines often use for preservatives and flavoring and stuff. No dyes, none of that stuff. It's like traditional, natural fermentation, old world winemaking techniques, and just really, really good wine. If you're not a wine drinker, like I said, you're in the club, you will get a shipment every 3 months of 6 bottles. Hang on to them and give them away as gifts. Find somebody that just lost their job in the TV news business and tell them how much you appreciate them and give them a bottle of AllisonWinePromo.com. So going back to the point that I was making, and I'm going to show your graphic here, Mike. The weather person, like you were saying, has always been, in my opinion, that next to maybe the main big time on the billboard anchors, the one that gave the personality of the station a boost. And so it differentiated you from the other stations. And this is also when people were tuning in when there's a weather event. So you want this person to be really good at their job. It was surprising to me that the Allen Media folks said that it not only made sense, like it was a cost cutting thing, but they also were trying to argue to people that this was the best thing for coverage, that it was going to make it even better. And I had a hard time believing that. Look, if you could argue that to me, I'm open to it. But it just seemed like, how could it be better to have somebody in Atlanta telling you what's happening in California? How is that possible? And that's to me, either they know they're lying and they know that's not true, or they have a very dubious idea of what local news should be and is, because how could you possibly think you know what's going on? Like, how can you do real journalism on the total opposite side of the country and do it better than somebody who's actually there?
Well, I think it's a corporate disconnect from the customer, right? I mean, customer service, we all have had bad experiences with big corporations where you go in and you don't get great corporate service, great company service, and you're going like, what's going on here? Well, it's the corporate disconnect. As these companies get bigger and bigger, they get farther away from reality. The 90% number from that Pew Research study, which was done just last year, is pretty remarkable in the sense that weather has always been the number one reason people watch local news when asked. And that has not changed in decades. I mean, in decade after decade, that has not changed. So it seemed odd to me that would be their point of attack. Now, of course, Allen Media went after it because they have the Weather Channel. And then someone was saying, hey, well, we've got this big, huge entity here. But I understand nobody's happy about it. But you're also seeing some other stations starting to do it. I've recently heard that Tegna is looking at replacing its weekend anchors, weathercasters in some markets, with an anchor in another market, sending in the weathercast on weekends, but not weekdays. And they're also trimming back their staffs. But still, there are a number of markets, weather is king, right? If you're in Oklahoma, for instance, and tornadoes come blasting through on a regular basis, weather is the main thing. So those stations are going to super staff their weather departments, and they're not going to cut back because that's their lifeblood. That's why people tune in. If they aren't really great and they aren't number one with their weather coverage, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage. So I think with these being smaller markets, someone at the corporate level thought that they could get away with it by using, assets from the Weather Channel, but it doesn't seem to have worked because there was, pushback in many markets where this story got coverage about losing their favorite weather people. But again, as I said at the beginning, I don't think they're going to restore all of them. And Allen Media has not been very forthcoming when it comes to what their plans are, which seems kind of weird. You're a media company, you have newsrooms, but you don't say anything about anything that you're doing. But you expect everybody else to tell you what's going on when, you send your reporters over to talk to them. So it's kind of weird that a media company would be so quiet and silent.
Since you brought up Trump, I have to show this. Chris Whalen, CPA, made this. I am proud to appoint Allison Morrow Secretary of Journalism for the USA.
That sounds like a great job.
So I don't know, man. I don't think I would want that job. Anyway, I just thought it was funny. Chris Whalen, CPA. Go check him out. He's hilarious. He's been on the show multiple times. He takes clients for if you need, tax. He's going to be in a reality show soon, which is so interesting. But he's a great guy to ask questions to for your taxes and whatnot. And he's also great at photoshopping. So if you need something photoshopped, then just ask him. He sent this to me. He actually also, I'll have to share it somewhere else because I don't have it pulled up right now. But he also gave me a pardon. I also got pardoned by Biden, full clemency for the rest of my life. I think dating back to 2014. I don't know what I did in 2014. Greenpasture.org, promo code Allison, you get 10% off. They've got amazing products here. My favorite, which I've been taking for 10 years for dental health specifically, because I used to get cavities all the time, is the fermented cod liver oil butter oil blend. Okay, so it is a high vitamin D butter oil mixed with a fermented cod liver oil. It is produced this way so that the vitamins and the minerals in both of these products synergistically allow your body to absorb and use the most of the product that it can. It's not like your regular fish oil. In fact, a lot of fish oils, I would say, do not deliver on their promises. This product is developed the way that biological dentist Weston Price told his patients would help them, as he was seeing more and more cavities at the turn of the century from industrialized food. So go check him out if you're somebody who's got dental problems, root canals that you're healing from, cavities like I used to. I give it to the kids. I sincerely believe that nutrition is like one of the number one, if not the number one cause of kids who have like very small jaws these days because they're eating a lot of processed foods. Anyway, this stuff is just great. Helps so much, I think, with the issues that I have had. So if you're interested, again, it's greenpasture.org, promo code Allison. I like the cinnamon tingle flavor gel. But like I said, they've got a bunch of stuff here. And you can read all the reasons under nutrition, like the benefits of cod liver oil, why the fermentation process matters, the sustainability of their products, all that good stuff. Okay,